The tension in the Forrester mansion had been building for weeks, a silent undercurrent beneath the gleaming surfaces of marble floors and the steady click of high heels on hardwood. Ivy Forrester glided through the rooms like a shell of her former self, her usual graceful demeanor marred by something darker, more desperate. She studied Electra with an intensity that went beyond auntly concern, her gaze lingering too long on the young woman's chuckle and the way she cocked her head while listening, gestures that mirrored memories Ivy had long forgotten. Liam Spencer, ever the observer, noted the shift but attributed it to the commotion surrounding Electra's recent love entanglements, the nasty divorce with Will, the unexpected attraction to RJ, the murmurs of conspiracies and stolen letters. He felt Ivy was simply overprotective, which is a familial trait in a clan that values secrets and second chances. But that afternoon, as sunshine streamed through the big windows of the Forrester Creations showroom, Ivy couldn't bear the wait. Liam had come to talk about a long-standing design cooperation, something banal about foreign markets and Australian inspirations that Ivy had previously promoted. He discovered her alone among the mannequins dressed in flowing silks, her fingertips tracing the edge of a fabric swatch as if it could hold her. She looked up, and the look on her face stopped him in his tracks. Raw, unprotected, the kind of vulnerability he hadn't seen from her since their own convoluted history years before. "Liam," she murmured, her Australian accent thickening with effort. "We need to talk. Not about work." He placed down his iPad, worry etched over his brow. "What's going on? Is it Electra? I know things have been rough with her and Will, but it's about Electra," Ivy interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. She took one step closer, then another, until the distance between them felt heated. "But it's not just about her and Will. It's about her. It's about us." Liam scowled, his uncertainty mixed with unease. "Us? Ivy, you're not making sense." She took in a nervous breath, her gaze fixed on his. "Electra is our daughter." The words hung in the air like fog, inconceivable but undeniably clear. Liam glanced at her, waiting for the joke, the explanation that this was all a misunderstanding. But Ivy's expression was devoid of jest. Her lips quivered, and tears welled, but did not drop. "What?" he finally asked, the syllable breaking. "Electra is our daughter," she murmured softly, as if saying it again would make it more true. "I never told you. I couldn't. When I left Los Angeles all those years ago, after everything, after us, I discovered I was pregnant. I was scared, Liam. Terrified. You were with Hope, or trying to be, and I didn't want to destroy what little stability any of us had left. So I went back to Australia. I told my family I needed time, space. And when Electra was born, I couldn't keep her. Not openly. Not with the questions it would raise." Liam's brain was racing. Electra was presented as the daughter of Ivy's older brother, John Forrester Jr., a cousin no one had ever met on screen, providing a handy backdrop for a new character joining the Forrester family. But now those parts have shattered. "You gave her to your brother?" Liam inquired, his voice husky. "I let him and his wife raise her as their own," Ivy explained. "They wanted a child but couldn't have one. It seemed like the perfect solution. She grew up knowing me as her aunt, the glamorous relative who visited with gifts and stories from America. But I was always there, watching from the edges. Every milestone, every heartbreak. When she decided to come to Los Angeles to work at Forrester, I fought it at first. Too close, too dangerous. But she was determined. And then seeing her here, with you around, with Will, it became this can't be real. Electra, she's what, 20? 21? That lines up with when you and I." "It does," Ivy intoned slowly. "It was right before everything fell apart with the Hope for the Future line, the accident with Allie. I didn't even know until weeks later. By then, you were trying to rebuild with Hope, and I was broken in ways I couldn't explain." He paused, returning to her. "Why now? Why tell me now?" "Because she's pulling away from me," Ivy acknowledged, her voice breaking. "She's angry about the letter, about how I've meddled in her life with Will. She thinks I'm controlling, overbearing. And maybe I am. But it's because I know what it's like to lose everything. I see her falling for RJ, and part of me wants to let her be happy, but another part screams that she needs to know the truth before she gets deeper into this family web, before she builds a life on lies. Liam's thoughts turned to Electra, who is bright. He had felt a weird connection with her from the beginning, a comfort in speaking, and a protectiveness that he attributed to her being family by extension. Now it felt like fate was teasing him. "Does she know?" he inquired. "No," Ivy replied firmly. "She thinks her parents are her parents. John and his wife. They've passed now, but the story holds. I couldn't take that from her. Not without you knowing first." The silence stretched, thick with implications. Liam thought of his own children, Kelly and Beth, and how strongly he protected them. To discover another, concealed all these years, seemed like a betrayal and a gift entwined together. "I need to see her," he admitted finally. "I need to look at her and understand." Ivy nodded and wiped her eyes. "I know, but we have to be careful. If this comes out wrong, it could destroy her. The family already has enough fractures." They stood there, two people who had previously experienced passion and pain, now joined by something far more permanent. Liam reached out, hesitated, then clasped Ivy's hand. It was a simple gesture, yet it held the weight of years of silence. "We'll figure this out," he said.
Together.
For her. Outside, the Los Angeles sun continued its indifferent march across the sky, sending long shadows across the showroom floor. Inside, a bombshell had detonated quietly but dramatically. Electra, somewhere in the building, chuckled at RJ said, not realizing that the core of her identity was changing beneath her. In the days that followed, Ivy and Liam negotiated the discovery like survivors of an earthquake, looking for flaws in every interaction. Liam found himself staring at Electra more closely, seeing the curve of her smile that mimicked Ivy's and the determined set of her jaw that echoed his own. He replayed talks in his head, looking for clues he had overlooked. Ivy, meanwhile, struggled with guilt that threatened to consume her. She chose seclusion to protect everyone, but protection had evolved into control, which was now unraveling. Electra recognized the difference, but didn't grasp it. Ivy's hovering seemed different, less judging and more begging. Liam's casual check-ins had an undercurrent of emotion she couldn't identify. When she confronted Ivy about her involvement with Will, the older woman stumbled, words seizing in her mouth. "I just want what's best for you," Ivy murmured, and the statement sounded more like a confession than a directive. Liam, too, struggled. He confided in no one, not Steffi, Hope, or Bill. This secret was too explosive and personal. He envisioned telling Electra and seeing her face crumple in shock, wrath, and betrayal. Would she despise them? Will she run back to Australia? Or would she, in her resilient nature, find a way to forgive? As tensions rose inside the Forrester sphere, RJ drawing closer to Electra, Will nursing wounds from perceived betrayal, Daphne circling with suspicions about Ivy's schemes, the hidden truth drew closer to the surface. Ivy realized the time had come to talk not just to Liam, but also to the young woman she had long admired from a distance. One evening, as the office emptied and the city lights twinkled outside the windows, Ivy stood in the design wing, where Electra frequently lingered late. The girl was sketching and lost in meditation. Ivy approached gently. "Electra," she said, heart pumping. "There's something I need to tell you. Something that will change everything." Electra looked up, intrigued yet hesitant. "What is it, Aunt Ivy?" Ivy swallowed and looked toward the door, where she knew Liam was waiting in the shadows, ready to come in when the moment came. "It's about who you are and who we are to you." The words hung there, connecting past secrets and future reckonings. In that moment, the Forrester heritage, already rife with drama and duplicity, was ready to embrace another layer. One that would test loyalties, heal old scars, and, perhaps, eventually, bring a fractured family back together. The afternoon light streamed softly through the beach house's huge windows, casting long reflections on the floor as Liam stood near the couch, peering down at a stack of documents he had hardly read. His mind had been everywhere recently, except for the paperwork in front of him. Too many questions, complications, and emotions were always swarming around him. Life had never been tranquil for very long. Just as he thought things had settled down, another unforeseen event would occur, causing everything to move yet again. Relationships had shifted, alliances had been destroyed and restored, and the future was often unknown. Liam had gotten accustomed to dealing with difficult situations, but there had recently been a lingering sense that something significant was about to occur.
He simply didn't know what.
When he heard a knock on the door, his feelings intensified. Liam looked up, slightly astonished. He was not expecting anyone. The majority of visitors would call or text him first. For a brief period, he debated ignoring it, but the knock returned, this time firmer. He walked up and opened the door. Ivy stood on the other side. Liam blinked with amazement. Ivy. She gave a faint, frightened smile. It had been a long since they had spoken face to face, and the unexpected visit indicated that something important had brought her there. Hi, Liam, she murmured quietly. He stood aside to allow her in. Wow, this is surprising. Is everything okay? Ivy went carefully into the room, looking around as if to gather her thoughts before speaking. Liam quickly sensed that something was off with her. Her expression was tense, but determined, indicating that she had come prepared to convey something significant. I hope I'm not interrupting anything, she told me. No, Liam responded swiftly. Not at all. I was just trying to focus on work, he said, gesturing toward the couch. Would you like to sit? Ivy nodded and took a seat, but she perched near the edge, as if she may stand up at any time. Liam sat across from her, examining her face intently. You look like something's on your mind, he told me. Ivy let out a little breath. Is it that obvious? Liam gave a little shrug. You didn't come all this way just to say hello. She smiled weakly.
No.
I didn't. For a brief period, the room became quiet. The distant sound of waves outside the home filled the silence, yet the tension between them gradually increased. Liam waited. He could tell Ivy was struggling to find the appropriate words for what she was about to say. Liam, she said, her voice calm but quiet. I need to tell you something important. His brow furrowed slightly. Okay. Ivy clasped her hands together, pulling power from the motion. When she looked up again, her eyes were filled with mixed emotions. I should have told you sooner, she confessed. Liam felt a small knot of concern form in his chest. You told me what?
She paused again.
This isn't going to be easy to hear. That didn't help his nerves. Ivy, you're starting to worry me, Liam replied gently. Whatever it is, just say it. She inhaled gently. Electra, she replied gently. Liam's expression shifted. What about her? He was obviously familiar with Electra. The young woman had recently become the subject of several talks, and people were curious about her past. Still, Liam couldn't understand why Ivy brought her up in such a serious tone. Ivy's gaze met his. Electra is our daughter. The words hung in the air like a sudden thunderstorm. For a little while, Liam did not move. He just gazed at Ivy, trying to understand what he'd just heard. What? Ivy gulped. Electra, she's our daughter, Liam. The quiet felt surreal. Liam rose up slowly, as if the room had suddenly become too small. That doesn't make any sense, he said. I know it sounds shocking, Ivy said quietly. Shocking? Liam repeated. Ivy, you just told me I have a daughter I didn't know about. His mind raced. Memories from years past began to stream through his memory, times he had shared with Ivy when they were close. Their last relationship had been intense, difficult, and ultimately short-lived. But he never dreamed that something like this might result from it. How is that possible? He asked. Ivy stayed sat, with her posture slightly straightened. I became pregnant while we were together, Liam explained, running his hand over his hair. So, you didn't tell me? Her face softened with regret. I wanted to, she explained. So many times. But why didn't you? Ivy took a moment to gather her thoughts as she stared out the window. Because everything around us was already so complicated, she told me. Your life was enmeshed in so many relationships and expectations. Liam shook his head in surprise. I was afraid of what it would do to you and the baby. You decided that for me. I know, she answered calmly. And I've regretted it ever since. He started pacing across the room. A daughter, he muttered. All this time, Ivy observed him closely. I never meant to hurt you, she explained. But you did, Liam responded. The comments were not delivered in wrath, but in genuine amazement. You let me go on with my life without knowing I had a child. I thought it was the best choice back then, Ivy recalled. And now? He asked. She took a breath. Now I think the truth matters more. Liam paused his pacing and returned his gaze to her. Does Electra know? Ivy nodded slowly. She found out recently. This news hit him nearly as hard as the first. So she knows, and I didn't. Ivy looked down again. She started asking questions about her father, she explained. And eventually I realized I couldn't keep hiding the truth. Liam sat back down, his mind still racing. What have you told her about me? That you're a good man, Ivy said quietly. Someone who deserved to know the truth. He leaned forward, placing his elbows on his knees. I can't believe this, he exclaimed. I understand, Ivy responded. For a few moments, neither of them talked. The immensity of what Ivy had disclosed was tough to process fast. Liam felt as if the entire course of his life had abruptly changed.
A daughter.
He was unaware of the existence of this child. How old is she? He finally inquired. 19. Liam blinks again. 19? The understanding grew more with each second. All the birthdays he'd missed. He wasn't present for all of those instances. You raised her alone, he added calmly. Yes. And you didn't think I should be in her life? I did, Ivy confessed. But every time I was about to tell you, something happened that made me reconsider. What type of something? There's another crisis. Another relationship issue. Another instance in which your life seems too unstable to include anything so significant. Liam exhaled deeply. My life was unstable because I didn't know everything, he told me. Ivy nodded slowly. You're right. He returned his gaze to her. Where is she now? Ivy paused. She's in Los Angeles. He was taken aback. Is she here? Yes. Liam's heartbeat quickened. So I could run into my own daughter and not even know it. I didn't want it to happen that way, she replied hurriedly. That's why I came to see you. He carefully examined her countenance. So, what happens now? Ivy's voice softened. That depends on you. Liam reclined back, staring at the ceiling for a moment. His entire understanding of his past had recently been changed. You're telling me I'm a father, he replied hesitantly. Yes. And there's a 19-year-old woman out there who's my daughter. Ivy gave a chuckle. Yes. He exhaled deeply. I don't even know where to start. You could start by meeting her, Ivy said gently. Liam gazed at her again. Does she want that? Yes, Ivy replied. She does. That response triggered something deep within him. Despite the shock and perplexity, the prospect of meeting his daughter sparked a strong curiosity and emotion. What is she like? He asked. Ivy smiled slightly. She is smart. Strong. Are you as determined as me? Maybe, Ivy replied. Liam giggled gently, the sound conveying a mix of anxiety and wonder. 19 years, he answered. That's a lot of catching up to do. Yes, I acknowledged. He examined her closely. Why today? She met his gaze. Because I couldn't keep the secret any longer. Her voice was honest, and it was evident that this confession had been on her mind for years. I should have trusted you, she said. Liam nodded slowly. Maybe, he replied. The room became quiet again as they both weighed what was ahead. Electra, a young woman from Los Angeles, was waiting to see the father she had lately learned about. And Liam's life was about to change in ways he could not have foreseen. He stared at Ivy once more. Everything's different now, he said. She nodded. Yes, it is. But neither of them could have predicted how much that one discovery would change the course of their lives, and Electra's.